Okay, folks. Well, the this week's OTA balance update patch is live. The over-the-air card balances with some really surprising changes. I was not expecting this, and particularly not for the developers' comments to come on so strong. So let's talk through these. We've got some card changes, we've got some location changes, and we have an update about the future of OTA changes. So this is the end of the experimental 1 month of doing these every week, and we got an update on what's going to be happening next. So the first two card changes are the ones that are, I think, the biggest and the most surprising to me. And we have Black Bolt going from a 5/8 to now a 5/7, so taking one power hit, and Stature taking a 5/7 to going down to a 5/6. So both sides of this combo both getting nerfed, and you can see the developer comment for Black Bolt. This one wasn't on any of our bingo cards to start the year, but here we are. Black Bolt ascended to the top of our individual card leaderboards a couple weeks ago and has remained there unchallenged ever since, with a frankly shocking average number of cubes won per game when drawn. However, his discard effect makes him a sort of card we don't want topping that list. Furthermore, the deck he was fueling has also been quietly outperforming the field by a margin as high as Shuri or Thanos in their prime. That's the part I find so shocking. While his game plan may feel more fair, it also has almost no bad matchups. Since the metagame hasn't shifted to effectively contest this deck, we've decided Black Bolt's day in the sun is over. So I think that the interesting thing for me in this is that the idea that this deck was outperforming makes sense. I saw a lot of people having very good results with this deck. I had good results when I played with it. But I think the feeling about Shuri and Thanos is that they were so oppressive that they were everywhere, that I was seeing them all the time. And so every game was a Shuri or a Thanos game at their peaks. And that definitely hasn't been the case with Black Bolt and Stature. In fact, I feel like I've only seen a handful of games against them. And so I'm really surprised to hear that comparison. On Stature, ditto. We have the same numbers on the Black Bolt Stature deck soften a little bit since, or we have seen the numbers on the Black Bolt Stature deck soften a little bit since our wave change, which has been most impactful by turning a good matchup into a bad one. However, it's still clearly the best deck, and our playtesting for some future decks also indicated that this change would be merited down the line. So we're making it now in order to ensure we see this deck fall from its lofty perch. So I have to say that I think that there is something in that comment that they're underselling. The idea that playtesting for some future decks indicated. We've actually seen a lot of changes that they've made, both in the OTA updates and in the balance patches, that are really about predicting cards that are about to come out. We saw the Sunspot nerf before. We saw Kitty Pride, sorry, not Kitty Hawk, Kitty Pride and Nebula as one cost cards get released. And we also saw the changes to Jubilee and America Chavez before we got Iron Lad and Howard the Duck. So I'm really wondering if there isn't something about this discard effect, discard a low cost card from your opponent's hand, that doesn't interact with something from one of the sets they're releasing. Nothing immediately jumps to mind. We have a group of Spider-Man related cards coming out as next month's season pass. None of those jump out at me. I think Spider-Ham is the lowest cost of them. But I do think there may be more to that future matchups question than they're letting on here. The other two changes, Negasonic Teenage Warhead is getting an extra power, and Invisible Woman is getting an extra power. These feel like much lighter touches on cards that are definitely underplayed. They say they hemmed and hawed a bit over whether they should release Negasonic at the 3-4 or the 3-5. Of course, in most cases, Negasonic is probably getting blown up. And so the power from 4 to 5 isn't going to matter either way. But what this does is makes it so that when you play Negasonic to a location, if you're more likely to be winning that location at the time when you play it, so your opponent has to play something there to blow it up, and then play something else to win the location. So I think this is interesting. Probably makes the card more playable. I still don't think it's going to be fantastic by any means, but definitely an improvement. Invisible Woman going from a 2/2 to a 2/3. Basically, I only see Invisible Woman today in this Hela deck that they mention, where you're trying to get both your discard plays, particularly MODOK, and your Hela behind Invisible Woman, so that you don't discard your Hela, is the key thing that you're avoiding here. I think that it's come up a couple of times in this Pseudo Cosmo or Protect from Enchantress sort of scenario. It used to be something that people played in Spectrum decks to try to protect against Enchantress, although both the Spectrum deck archetype, well, I've actually seen some recently, but seemed to disappear, and Enchantress, until the recent buff, was a lot less common. So we really weren't seeing a lot of Invisible Woman. And I think she's interesting. I think there is a lot of tension and drama in keeping some cards hidden for a lot of the game. So I would love to see more of her. I think that this is a good, fun change. Next, we have location changes. After some internal discussion of our goals for the location pool, we've decided to continue adjusting some of our most restrictive locations. There are meaningful gameplay and deck building benefits to having these locations, but there are also diminishing returns to having many such locations that restrict play so harshly and similarly, especially 2 or more appearing in the same game. So rather than further reducing the frequency with which these locations appear, we've decided to thin the ranks. As of today, we've temporarily removed the following 3 locations from the game. That's Plunder Castle, which is the one where you can only play 6-cost cards there. Milano, which I'm not sure what that one is. And Sandbar, which is you can only play cards that are have no abilities here. Milano maybe is the more recent one that you can only play there on turn 5. I could be wrong, but I don't remember Milano. We're taking them back to design, where we'll be finding brand new effects to implement for each one. Once these are play tested and approved, we'll reintroduce them to the game. We're not 100% sure what that will look like yet, but you can expect to see them return in the next few months. I think this is a totally reasonable thing for them to be testing and experimenting with. I love to see them considering the location pool. It's also felt like so far the primary action on location pool was adding new locations. And so eventually that was going to require, like if you're just adding, you eventually have to start thinking about how do you remove, how do you rotate, how do you adjust. And so I think this is healthy, and I'm excited to see this. Finally, we have the future of OTA changes, which I think is really interesting. Over the last month, they did an OTA change 3 weeks and a balance patch on the 4th week. With the conclusion of this May trial, they've decided to continue making regular OTA updates to the game, but to skip one of those weeks. So now the cadence is going to be a patch on 1 week, which was this week. They're going to do an OTA update Fat Thursday. They're going to take an off week to get some data from the OTA week, and then do another OTA. So instead of 3 OTAs between patches, there will only be 2, giving them a little bit more time to get them right, and also to see data from the first one when they make the second one. I think, honestly, the OTA updates are welcome. I feel like they've been doing a great job of tweaking cards quickly to help make a healthy metagame full of a really diverse set of decks, where it doesn't feel like we're just playing the same deck over and over. So I've really been appreciating what the OTA updates do to the metagame. And they are a little jarring, particularly if you're not paying attention on OTA day. I have found myself several times playing a deck and being like, wait, why is that a different power than what I expected it to be. And so I think they're a little bit disruptive, and doing them every week is kind of hard to keep up with. And so I'm excited for them to continue to experiment with the right cadence here to balance that. So that's it. That's the OTA update for this week. I think a lot of good stuff in here, some really interesting things. We will probably be seeing a lot less of Black Bolt and Stature. I'm excited to try out some Negasonic Teenage Warhead and some Invisible Woman, see how these buffs change their gameplay. We'll try to stream some games of those tomorrow. So until then, catch you next time.